So this is going to be my review for Aliens Fireteam Elite. I love this game. I'm kind of addicted to this game. However, there's a lot of problems with it. It is a budget title, and I'm hoping it can get fixed out. So the first thing I want to cover is technical side. I am playing on PS4 for this review. This game does not run very well. There are a large amount of potentially game-breaking glitches. I've had a lot of frame rate drops, particularly when playing with certain people, as opposed to others. I've had some issues with frame rate drops. I have not had the game hard crash. A lot of people complain about like door glitches where like you need to walk through a door to progress and it just won't let you progress through it. Yeah, I haven't had that issue. No problem on that end. Most of it has been frame rate drops. Some bugs with like AI spazzing out. No real issues on that. Nothing game breaking. I've had some funny teleports where like a xenomorph will be like right about here and then they immediately just shoot up to right here. It's hilarious. I do like those types of bugs. Those are kind of funny. Good challenging aspect. What I don't like is the frame rate, and then I seem to have an issue with my... I thought it was a controller issue, but I've had it on everything I've played. So the game's sprint is on L3. I've remapped it to say X instead of cover, and remapped the cover to L3. Yeah, it doesn't fix it. Like, the sprint will just randomly stop at the worst intervals. So what is the game about? The game is a third person. People like to call it a horde mode. I realistically would just call it an RPG. I call it an aliens-themed Destiny is probably a good example that not a lot of people make. It's a very fun co-op shooter, although I will say you will need to have two friends to play this with in order to get the most value out of it. This is not the type of game you can just buy and get a lot of value out of. So let's talk about a couple of things with the game. When you first boot in, you create a character, and then you're booted in here. Your only exposition is with talking to these people. Everybody makes an issue about... Yeah, I've seen like the texture pop in. I'm not an issue on that. So there's... like, oh, their facial animations don't move and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with that. Same thing. Game doesn't tell great story. Yeah, again, I don't have a problem with that. Like, there's intel that you find, and you interact with people, and you find it in-game, interact with them, and it'll be like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I don't really care on that. This is not really an issue to me. Story's not a thing. I'm here for gameplay. How's gameplay? It's mixed. It's very good and very bad. It's very fun. It's very repetitive fun. It's a grindy type of fun. So let's explain what happens. Alright, so you move, you aim, third person, reload, sprint, but you have a dodge roll that's on stamina. Now, I have a couple issues with the dodge roll. Let's talk about that. One, it's not instant. There's a delay. Two, dodge roll doesn't make you damage immune. Makes sense. One issue. A lot of the enemies that you come up against, a lot of the xenomorphs, have damage immune periods. For example, drones, when they are running away to a vent, have a small window of damage immunity. I do not appreciate that, given that my dodge roll is not damage immune. I do feel that 3 dodge rolls is not really great. I would maybe make it 4, or maybe make it so that, like, if I have the stamina, I could just keep dodge rolling, as opposed to having that delay and recovery period in between the rolls. Next design choice I would like to talk about is that your sidearm right here is not upgradable in any way. I do wish that your custom sidearm here could be upgraded or reworked. It's your emergency fallback option if you run out of ammo on all your weapons. I mention this because the Demolisher specifically actually has a build around this. It says in the bio, heavy weapons carry limited ammo, Demolisher may often rely on their sidearm. They have stuff based around their sidearm. They actually have perks to buff their sidearm. But given the fact that there is no weapon slot for your sidearm, this is literally a fire and forget type weapon. where you're not going to find yourself using this that often. You'll use literally anything else before you use this, unless you're doing a meme build like double shotguns, and if that's the case, then you're going to use that as a ranged option. It's not bad. I just want to say, this is not a bad weapon by any means. This can do decent headshot damage. On the normal difficulty, this gun can actually be used to get you through missions. On harder difficulties, this weapon is not going to be used at all unless you're completely out of ammo, and if that's the case, you are fucked. There is, like, no way you're winning that. Next thing I want to cover are emotes. So, there is an emote wheel. What is it mapped to? I think it's mapped to R3, or down on D-pad. But you can't do it in this area here. I would also like to mention touchpad really isn't used. There's no like scoreboard functionality. I kind of wish there was like scoreboard, or you could handle like game stats. Small indie developer, not really surprised about that. Logistically, I do like the aiming and shooting. Although, if we're going to talk about the tech, I do like how it's designed for both PC and console with how it's optimized here. I do want to mention that 2.5 is the highest ADS aim sensitivity you can go. It is not high enough for me. I like a high sensitivity. I have a massive adjustment coming from this game from other first-person shooters. Now, I played Gears of War extensively. I've played all of the Gears of War games on Xbox. My Xbox is right here. Literally, just right outside of where I'm pointing my finger, off camera. The aim sensitivity in that is better than this. This game needs to have a feature where you can up the aim sensitivity or the FOV. In terms of controls, I do like the fact that you can remap a lot of things. I love some of the accessibility options that they have, like colorblind mode is nice. Same thing with subtitles, the ADS toggle feature. I wish there was a sprint toggle, but I do like a lot of these features because a lot of modern AAA titles don't have some of these things. I do want to mention that. Gameplay is very smooth, gunplay. I have to comment, all of the guns feel amazing. In terms of how they fire, recoil, animations. Here's one of my favorite features. Just listen. Better on the shotgun. Listen with the shotgun. So I'm going to get close to emptying it. Alright, now listen, carefully. So that's regular shot. Almost out of ammo. Out of ammo. You can tell by the audio cues of the individual guns how close you are to needing to reload. I fucking love that feature. That is such a small detail I wish more games had. I do not like that there is no way for you to do a full third person to examine your character. You can do it here. You can't really do it anywhere else. I also wish that maybe something they could add on with maybe like a bestiary or something to talk about the xenomorphs. So let's talk about the story. So you have Priority 1, which is mainly supposed to teach you the structure of how the rest of the game goes. You drop in, you're walking around corridors. You might get jumped in the corridors, and there's going to be a designated room fight. You're going from corridor, room fight, corridor, room fight, corridor, room fight, until you reach the end fight where they throw bigger Xenos at you. Usually there's a middle fight, depending on the mission. So, first mission sets up like that. Second mission has a boss encounter right before the end, and then the next fight is the boss encounter again. This one right here has pretty much nothing. It's just a couple of room battles until the end, and then they throw a bunch of bosses at you. Don't have a lot of bosses in the game. Then this campaign throws the second faction in, which are synthetic enemies. So starting in mission 2, you'll be fighting synthetics. Mission 3, you're exclusively fighting synthetics. There are no xenomorphs in there. Synthetics are not featured that much. It's a nice change of pace, and it forces you to use the cover system. The with the synthetics are the only time you're using the cover system. Then the third campaign, which again, Xenos, then Pathogen. Third faction of enemies. Again, they're probably the worst type of enemy in the game. We'll cover those in difficulty in a minute. And then this one, which has a decent mix, where you're going to be fighting Xenos and Synthetics. I forget if you're going to fight Xenos and Synthetics here. I think it's just Xenos in this one, and then just Xenos in this one. And everybody's talking about the boss fight, or lack thereof. We'll get to that. Here's what I want to cover. So, we're going to cover two things. We are going to cover now difficulty and story. First off, I also want to mention that the tactical opportunities are kind of glitched. It is 4:27 at time of recording. I know it's reversed, but that's 4:27. These reset at 4 a.m. every day. I have not completed these. I have not completed these. I did the weekly. I did the weekly already. I will say that. But the 2 dailies never reset for me. This is a common issue I have, or I'll come into a game and find out my dailies have already been completed from a previous day. If you play the game too much, the game takes away your dailies. I kind of don't like that, especially because it's trying to present itself to be a live service. So let's talk about missions. These two missions right here are the two missions you can speedrun the most. Your first mission, you're probably going to die once trying to figure out how everything works. Mission 2... same thing, but it's alright. Mission 3 is a very difficult mission. Now, the way most of these missions work is they are cakewalks until the end fight. And that's when they just throw everything at you. Sometimes there's a timer, sometimes you have objectives to complete. So this one features a timer. This one you have to kill Monica and then clean any remaining enemies up. Monica is the boss of that level. And then in this one you have to complete objectives, and they're kind of on a little bit of a fake timer. You won't see it or anything like that. And it's going to spawn warriors in between. These two missions are what I run when I'm trying to speedrun and grind, because I can bang out a mission in 20 to 30 minutes. You know, I don't get a lot of XP for it, but if I can run, you know, 2 to 3 an hour, I will eventually grind it up. Although usually I have to run modifiers and stuff like that. This mission is relatively difficult. Just for the end boss fight, because you have to drop consumables. Or you have to drop resources into it. We'll talk about the resources and the progression and stuff like that in a minute. I'm not really a big fan of that end fight. Very challenging, very tense. This campaign. This mission right here was very hard the first time I did it, because they like to throw a lot of enemies at the end boss wave. The end boss wave is relatively difficult because you have to fight off 2 warriors, you usually have a few spitters and some bursters. I finally figured out how to beat this mission relatively consistently solo. I just want to mention the AI is bad. Alien AI is off the chart. We'll talk about that after. Your AI that comes into the game with you, if you can't get other people, they will hit their shots. They take cover. That's about all they do. They are not very good at focusing, because they are AI. They don't focus priority targets, and they don't focus trash. They just kind of blindly shoot at whatever. So they're helpful putting damage. You're not doing all of the work, but it's the bare minimum. That's pretty much all they do. I genuinely hate the AI teammates. But I don't now. This mission is incredibly difficult with AI for the end boss fight. This mission is not bad. So this is when they throw synthetics and xenomorphs. And I love the fact that because they have synthetics and xenomorphs in this mission, you'll see them fighting each other. And it's great to watch them fight each other and then pick off whoever loses. Or if you wade into the fight while they're fighting and see them start to like mingle between the three. Love it. Great. I wish there was more campaigns like this. Or that there were challenge cards that added synthetics into these missions. It doesn't happen. Bit of a shame. Now, this is the thing. This mission's not difficult. It does introduce the sniper synthetic enemy, who's very annoying because he takes cover and he does a lot of damage on shot. And the way I usually know that there's a sniper, like if I'm in a firefight and I'm not paying attention to the radar in the corner. Great job on the radar, by the way. I notice it because my AI teammate goes down. Because the AI gets hit by the sniper all the time. Then I know, oh, I gotta go kill the sniper before he picks off my teammates. This mission right here is bullshit. So the game does feature a lot of randomization in the way it throws enemies at you. So this mission can have anywhere from 2 to 6 heavy synthetic units during the final boss fight. Anywhere from 2 to 6. If you roll 4 or higher, you're probably fucked. I've managed to beat 4. So it threw 1 flame unit and 3 heavy units at me. And the heavy units are pretty trash. The flame units are the one to be scared of. I was able to beat that with AI teammates. If it throws more than 4 heavies, or if it throws more than 2 flame heavies, you will not beat this mission. On the normal difficulty. I think it's a bit of a stretch in how that last fight is. Because even though there's a ton of resources for you, you know, there's like 3, 4 med kits, I think. There's a little bit of consumables. There's 2 ammo boxes. There's good cover points. Doesn't matter. This mission will throw you for a curveball. I think that they should have a little bit of better balance. This fight right here is good. This introduces the Crusher as the boss enemy. I did like this mission. This is a pretty good mission. However, for 3-2 onwards, you're going to notice a problem with balance on the classes. I'll talk about that when I mention the classes. But from this campaign forward, you are going to see a very hard time playing solo on the non-damage oriented classes. If you are playing one of the 3 support classes in the game, past this difficulty right here, which the recommended category rating on standard is 350. I call bullshit on that. Right? I have, for my ratings, okay, my Doc is 650, my Recon is 570, and my Phalanx, which is the new class, is 580. And I just want to mention the fact that anything after this mission and after is almost unplayable in solo with the AI, unless you are willing to bring in a lot of consumables to win those missions. So this is where the game really spikes up in difficulty outside of challenge cards. On this mission right here, it's not difficult till the end boss fight, where they sit you on a platform with very little cover. Xenomorphs are going to swarm in. There's 4 spitters. They're going to throw 2 warriors and 2 drones at you. This is a difficult mission to survive without resources. I've done it. I've only managed to do it on the damage classes. And it's a little bit unfair. This mission right here is not good. This is the only mission of the game that features the Pathogen enemy. In it, it's not a very well-designed enemy. It's nice fan service if you like Prometheus and the newer Ridley Scott alien films like Covenant, Prometheus. It's alright. It's not great. The boss fight is stupid at the end because they just throw swarms of enemies at you and make you snipe these batteries, essentially, to destroy them. And you have to destroy a set of batteries on the ceiling, go touch a console to spawn another set of batteries from the ceiling, shoot them down, then one spawns up from the ground. You're going to have a special type of pathogen enemy that is the pathogen boss, basically, that pops up every now and then. It takes a lot of resources to kill. Your AI teammates aren't going to help you. You basically have to run a lot of turrets on this mission to protect you. No, the technician is not going to save you either. It's kind of stupid. Last one is only way to be sure. I definitely like this, but the difficulty is you'll feel the difficulty here, definitely. Like again, all of these for the most part have been unbeatable. This one's surprisingly easy. We'll cover that. So this one throws synthetics and xenomorphs at the same time. It's a good fight. It's relatively difficult at the end boss fight, which introduces the Praetorian. And I found that my AI teammates were dying way too often during this mission. I played it with a friend and AI partner. No problem. Cakewalk. 2 AI partners, it's unbearable to beat. Just unbearable. Because they just go down so often at that point, because the aliens start coming in larger numbers, and the Praetorian is a fucking tank that requires teamwork to bring down. You have this one, same situation, AI partner, terrible, no problem. And then this one, which is basically just a standard mission up until the end, where you have to defend a platform for about 3 to 6 minutes, depending on if it gives you the 2 or the 3 prompts. Sometimes they'll give you 2, sometimes they'll give you 3. For the mission objective you need to complete, then you just sprint burst out, ignore everything, sprint burst past the queen. You don't fight the queen, spoiler alert, you run past it. Very tense, very heart-pounding. I love that the AI teammates are programmed to attack her, so they immediately die, because she's an insta-kill. But it's very tense, especially when enemies get in the way and you don't have time to shoot. It definitely does give you enough time to get out, but if your sprint button doesn't work like me... Anyway, that's mission structure. And when you beat the campaign, you unlock Horde mode, the harder difficulties, and Recon class. Don't really want to talk about that. Let's talk about gameplay and balance a little bit now. So the game is based around that arbitrary combat rate. So what happens is, you have your classes, which Recon does not unlock until you beat that. So you have these 5 classes now. It was these 4, and then it was Recon when you beat it, and then they just introduced Phalanx, right? So each class carries 2 guns, each class has 2 abilities they can activate, and a passive ability. They're all based around a role. There are 4 categories of guns. There are rifles, which are generally mid to long range weapons. They're either assault weapons or snipers. You have your close quarters weapons, which are generally shotguns, SMGs, flamethrowers. They're designed for close quarters work. They lose effectiveness at mid-range or don't deal damage. Handguns, designed to be more powerful options of your standard sidearm. They can be snipers, mini shotguns, burst weapons, mini SMGs. Good variety here, although they are a bit lackluster. I'll do a separate video for the weapons after this. And then you have your heavy weapons for the demo. He's the only class that can use them right now. I kind of wish, like the Phalanx class... I'll cover that in a different video. But the heavy weapons... You have your heavy weapons here. First off, I want to talk... There's a lot of detail here. I love the fact, I don't know if you noticed, if you click on this, there's actually a bio on all the guns. Now, when you look at the guns, you interact with them, you put different colors and decals. Not really a fan of this. Here's my thing, though. So, all of the guns level up as you use them. With the latest update, they had a bug in it. So what they did is they made all the players who had the game before the update, they made all of their guns that they had unlocked at the time 4 stars. Which is great. All of the guns have different 4-star abilities that are designed to change how they play. They either buff them further or they differentiate them. Probably a great example of this is we'll go to shotguns. So this is the standard shotgun you get at the beginning of the game. If you look at its bonus, it basically makes it so that if you hit an enemy, they take more damage from subsequent shots. Whereas the DLC shotgun increases your stumble chance and makes the weapon stronger towards stumbling enemies. So even though these 2 shotguns feel the same, they play very differently then. I love that aspect. There is also the functionality of attachments that you'll unlock. And they're slotted onto different weapons to customize how you build each class. And there's different categories of attachments too. So for example, shotguns can revolve around internal magazines, tubular magazines, or large and medium magazines, or small magazines. It gives you the ability to customize your guns to an insane degree. Next up are consumables. These are things you'll find in the game. You can also purchase them from the little shop guy, who I'll show you in a minute. And basically you activate these in a mission, and they have various effects. I'll cover the details on them in the weapons guide. I just want to mention the fact off the start, there are some missions you're not beating without consumables. At least one consumable. Even the missions that I like to speedrun a lot, the game will give you like 2 sentry guns. I usually burn at least 1 just to make crowd control easier. In terms of difficulty and replay value, there are challenge cards. Challenge cards add a modifier to the game that makes it more difficult for a reward, like this one, or they make it easier for no reward, like this one. These are generally what you want to run for harder missions. There are some missions that really don't matter. They offer like a small challenge or something like that, like this one right here, where it just changes the camera. There's a noir one of this that I did today on a previous stream. That's awesome. I love that. But some of these, like this one right here, is like not possible without a lot of work. These offer a great degree of depth. A lot of these are very challenging. I did a no HUD challenge today. That was pretty rough. There's a few ones like this one right here for weapons take twice as long to reload. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's easy as hell. Something like this one right here, this is a difficult challenge to do. This requires teamwork. So a lot of these cannot also be done with the AI, which is kind of annoying. Not a fan of the cosmetic stuff that the game has to offer. Although I will say, I do like how it works, how everything's unlocked in-game. Now, if you want to talk about the classes, I'm going to cover that briefly here. So there are 3 classes that are based around damage. That would be your gunner. Your gunner is a rapid, mobile, running gunner. They're based around your accuracy. Their abilities: increased rate of fire and reload speed, a frag grenade, and their passive: the more damage you deal, the more shots you hit, the more damage you deal, and it falls off over time. I like how the perk system works. Where again, as you level up the class, you'll unlock this little tree right here, and you can slot these in and fit them to certain abilities. This is my gunner build right now. It's not great. It's based around the frag grenade, around radius and recharge. I do need to add shrapnel when I hit level 8. Anything that's blue is shared between classes. Anything that is green is unique to that class. You cannot run it on other classes. And they have different sizes and shapes, too. Some of them have to connect, like where it says compatible with, it has to connect to that ability or that perk. So, for example, this connects to the frag grenade. You cannot run this unless it attaches to the frag grenade or something that attaches to the frag grenade. Like the structure on it. This class is good. This class is my primary class. It's your best if you just like mechanical aim and shoot, Call of Duty style gameplay. But it's effective. The Demolisher is a heavy weapon specialist. They run a rifle and a heavy weapon. They're the only ones that can use heavy weapons. They have a set of rockets. They have an AoE knockback. And then whenever their passive makes it so that when you activate an ability, for every enemy you hit, you build stacks. Each stack increases your gun damage by 15 seconds. And when it expires, you use the other ability. Get that. It incentivizes you to use it for crowd control, so you have a nice damage bonus. But realistically, it's better off to just use it against a boss-type xenomorph in order to then mop them up with the higher damage bonus. They're primarily built around, like, knockback and stuns and stuff like that, too. Strong damage class. Then the Technician. Now, this is where you start to see some damage fall off. They have smaller weapons because their primary ability is a turret. And their turret can be changed, too. So, like, I run the flame turret, for example. It's a deployable turret. You lay it down, you pick it up and bring it with you. You can take it wherever you want. There's a lot of buffs around the turret. And then the charge coils, which your passive basically just buffs you and your turret together. That's it. But the charge coils, like, slow enemies, do a little bit of damage to them. It mostly slows them and prevents them from using certain abilities. Like, Prowlers will not be able to jump on you if they're affected by a charge coil. They're a crowd control-based kit, and because they're bringing a turret, which basically brings an extra fighter for you, an extra gun, so to speak, they're a damage class. However, these 3 classes right here are very good at killing shit, obviously. These 3 classes don't kill stuff. And on the harder missions, anything after 3-2, you're not going to be able to run these with AI because they don't put out enough damage. So the Doc, a lot of people complain about the Doc, that the Doc is the weakest class. Right now, I'm inclined to agree with him. So their ability, their passive ability essentially makes your main ability work. So they have a trauma station, which is basically a healing turret, but has a set amount of heals in it. And the more you use it, the less you have, until you run out. It doesn't recharge over time. The only way it recharges, thanks to its passive, is by picking up a medkit. Not using a medkit, just picking one up. This makes it hard to use with newer players who don't understand how the dock works. Because the dock basically is the one that is healing. Each player's personal med kit at that point should only be used in an emergency, like if the dock is incapacitated or if the dock needs to get healed. Because the dock has to heal people with their med kits and their healing station in order to pick up the med kit to refill their healing station's power. They also have the combat stance, which is worthless. It doesn't do anything. It increases you and your team's movement speed, not by a lot, your stamina regen, not noticeable, and the accuracy and stability, which again, it basically means like you can swap weapons faster, you have less recoil, less bullet spread, but it's minor. It's minor. I'd pop it just to pop it sometimes. Now, they use a rifle and a handgun, but unfortunately they're designed for a bit longer range combat, which this game is not good with. This character class is very good for dealing with the synthetics enemies, if you put it with sniper. Other than that, it's pretty bad. Now, the other free class is Phalanx, that you'll have when you load into the game. Now, this is the tank class. They're deployable as a shield, which you use your weapon with one hand and your shield with the other. You move slowly, and you walk around with the shield up, and you block damage from the front. Your passive makes it so that when you block damage with your shield, it increases the damage of your weapon. Good synergy. And then he has a very weak shock pulse ability. So, unless you have mods for this, it's not very good. It stuns nearby enemies and make enemies that melee you get stunned again. And it does a small damage over time effect. The issue with this ability, A, it's a long cooldown, B, it's a short duration, and C, it's just not impactful. It's probably the least effective crowd control device in the game. The Technician shock coils work better because they slow the enemy down. And the Demolisher's blast wave works better because it knocks the enemies back and clears some room for you. Both of these are about, like, the proximity of the alien. This does nothing. This does nothing to affect it. It just makes it so that if they melee you, which you generally don't want them to do, although it does work if they melee the shield. But because they don't have any damage-based abilities, it's not great. Now, they do have close quarters and handguns, so they're designed for getting into the thick of things. I have two problems with this class, and they're both based around the shield. One, you want to hold your shield up a lot in order to use this, which means you want to be in the front, and you want your team to be behind it. The problem is the shield is not big enough to even cover you in the first place. You're still very vulnerable to the sides. I wish there was a mod for this that made your shield a lot stronger in the front. The mods are currently for the shock pulse, so I don't think they're going to change that anytime soon. I wish there was a mod for the shield itself, because it's not good. It's alright, it's a fun gimmick. It's not very strong of an ability. It's too small for you to be like a frontline tank character, just getting up in the front, like pushing forward with your shield, kind of bullying with it. But it's just big enough to protect you. Again, this is another class that works great against the synthetic enemies. I should maybe try it out against the pathogens. See how well it fares against pathogens. It doesn't work with xenomorphs very well. And that's what you're fighting in 80% of the game, is xenomorphs. Outside of one mission that's exclusively synthetics, and one mission that's exclusively pathogen, all of the other missions you are fighting xenomorphs, at least part of the time. It doesn't work. Two, anytime you take certain types of damage, like if a spitter spits on you and catches the off angle of your shield, shield drops. If you take damage from the side, like any type of damage you take while your shield is up, except for acid blood damage, pretty much knocks your shield down. I do not like that. It kind of negates the value of having the shield. Again, this could be fixed by having a perk or two to fix it, but oh well. Last up is Recon. You get this when you beat the campaign. This class is actually a very strong class, but their big focus is around sniping. This class is supposed to be based around using sniper rifles, and sniper rifles in this game are terrible. Spoiler alert. So, their passive ability is supposed to be around, like, headshot killing long-range targets. I find myself getting this more with my shotgun as a close-quarters weapon than I do with the snipers. Basically, it makes it so that if you get 2 headshot kills within 10 seconds of each other, it grants a stack of focus, and that increases your accuracy and stability by 10%. So you can get up to 30% accuracy and stability. It's basically like combat stims, but in a passive. Which I don't mind that, but it's not a great passive to have. Now you have these 2 abilities, which are fantastic abilities, even though they don't provide damage, they're just overall buffing the team. So you have the pups, which reveal enemies to you. It's a little drone that flies out, reveals enemies to you. And while they're revealed, it lowers the damage that they deal to your team. That's not great. I would instead prefer that you dealt more damage to them, but that could make it broken with, other classes that deal damage. And then you have the drone, which is a deployable drone. You deploy it on the ground. Good radius. And it makes it so that whenever you kill an enemy while you're in that circle, you get a little bit of life back, a little bit of health back, which is nice. And it also randomly pops out ammo every now and then for your characters to pick up, which is great. It also increases their accuracy and stability, which again, that's not what I'm focusing on. So, these 3 classes right here do not deal a lot of damage. The Recon is the best at dealing damage. The Phalanx is designed to be a bit more crowd control. The Doc is based around healing. All of these require a lot of experience to know how to play. If you are playing solo, you're not going to be able to play these a lot. You're going to find yourself struggling a lot. Like, the Doc can keep themselves alive, but they have a hard time killing things. These classes right here are generally good. The Technician is the best class for survival. The Demo is the best class for, either killing massive groups or large solitary targets. And the Gunner is just pretty well balanced. I think they do need to change certain abilities. I think that the Pup should be changed. Instead of reducing damage, it should make you deal more damage. I think the Doc's combat stims need a rework. I think the Phalanx needs a little bit of a rework. These classes feel so underpowered and so useless. Most of the time, if I'm running a 3-man team, we're running a Doc or a Recon with 2 of these for killing things. If we're tackling harder missions. If we go above the normal difficulty, which is how I'm going to segue now, you have to run at least 2 of these, which is kind of not fair. Balance. Difficulty balance. This game is hard. This game is definitely hard. So there's 5 difficulties. First off, casual is pathetic, although that's to be expected. This game mode, I wouldn't even play this. I won't play casual. If you play it once, you'll see how weak it is. Standard is what you start on. It says it's a good challenge for those who are familiar with shooters. It's a good challenge. This is a relatively good difficulty. If I were to compare this to Call of Duty, this would be a harder difficulty. This would be like a veteran level difficulty. Once you learn the patterns of how missions go, they become easier, but there's still enough of a challenge. Enemies are highlighted when you ADS, so you can see their outlines. You can revive players 4 times, and it has about 3 minutes to revive down teammates. Synthetic teammates are enough to complete certain missions, not all of them. When you jump up intense difficulty, you get a lot of changes, and I want to cover that. So, this is how the game is supposed to be played, and there are a few things in here that should be removed, and a few things in here that should be put into standard. On intense difficulty, enemies are not highlighted when aiming down sight. It's not changed. I don't have a problem with that. I find it helpful in the standard mode. It's not a necessity. I have a motion tracker. I have eyes. Your guns deal friendly fire, and now friendly fire will scale up the higher up you go. For friendly fire, that should be on the standard difficulty. A lot of people who play nothing but standard difficulty and then go and play intense struggle immensely with friendly fire. That also doesn't help with the AI. It's not good. The AI is terrible. You cannot play intense difficulty with AI. Max ammo is reduced. You won't notice it unless you're running unless you're running a heavy weapon. If you're not playing demo, you do not notice the max ammo is reduced unless you are missing so many shots it's not even funny. Acid blood is deadlier. That's nice. There's less time to revive down teammates. I believe it's 30 seconds? I forget if it's 60 or 30 seconds. I think it's 60 seconds. And you notice that your teammates are going to die if you if normal, like on standard difficulty, if somebody goes down, you're like, hey, we're just gonna clear out this area real quick, and then we'll come over and revive you. On intense, it's, oh no, we need to revive him now. Which is one of the main reasons why on intense difficulty, you see nothing but technician, because they'll just throw a turret down in front of them to protect themselves while they revive you. So, you see a lot of that on intense, but I do want to mention that this is a pretty decent class. It's a pretty decent challenge. I wish friendly fire was in standard. Here's where I have the issue. So, enemies do more damage. And they have more health. And acid blood does more damage. I really don't like that combination. I like the acid blood dealing more damage. It makes sense. If on standard difficulty, where most people are going to start out, it makes sense. You're not really afraid of acid blood. And then when you come to intense, you actually start to fear the acid blood more often. What I don't like is that enemies deal more damage and have more health. It should have been an either-or option. I don't think you should have done both. I say this because basic enemies, the basic Xenomorph runner, becomes incredibly tanky on this difficult. And some of the more powerful sniping type weapons cannot one-shot them without a headshot, which does make me feel like that would have been enough. But they also deal more damage, which means I have to kill them at range or I get fucked over. But they have so much health that they will get close to me by the time I kill them. I know it's designed to make the game harder, but the game is already hard enough. I don't think you needed to have these. If they had extra health, that would have made more sense to me if they just straight up increased the amount of health the Xenomorphs had. If they increased the damage, that would make it even better, instead of increasing the health. Because now your basic Xenomorphs, when they get up close, you know, they only do like 50 damage a swipe. If each difficulty increase that damage. So in intense, they do 100. Extreme, they do like 150 or 200. Insane, they did like 250 to 300. That would make a lot of sense to me. Because, with no health bonus. Because, yes, they would still be weak enough where you could pick them off at range. But if you made the mistake of letting even a basic enemy get up close, and you ignore them, and they hit you a couple of times, you're gonna feel it. I kind of wish that. Either that, or if you want to compensate, you could make it so that your character has less health. I really don't like that the enemies have the extra health with it, because it makes boss characters that already take a lot of coordination to put down very, very tanky. Unnecessarily tanky. Now, on extreme difficulty, you know, acid and enemies deal more damage, they have more health, you find less aid kits now. Normally it's 1 aid kit per person. Now they take 1 out. So if you're running a 3-player lobby, you're going to find 2 med kits. If you're running a 1-player lobby, you're going to find the 1. 2-player lobby, you're going to find 1. You have more friendly fire damage. Max ammo is further reduced, which you will start to notice here on close quarters and handgun classes now. You're not really going to notice it on rifles, unless you can't aim. You can only revive players twice. The amount of time it takes to revive them got doubled. So it's from about 4 seconds now to 8 seconds. And you have like 20 seconds to revive a teammate, which is usually not enough. If it gets interrupted one time, you're fucked. It's extreme. It makes sense. But you don't really have to play it. There's nothing really locked behind that outside of cosmetic stuff. You do need to be intense difficulty if you want to unlock 6 guns. There are 6 guns, and then the caches, the hidden caches in the levels, they have a higher chance of dropping better stuff in intense and above. So you are going to have to beat this campaign at some point, which is where I kind of like draw the line, because it's impossible with AI. And right now, it's hard to find people for this game. Last is insane difficulty. Don't even bother on this. You're like maxed out on everything. If you're maxed out on every class and you have a full team of maxed out that play together, go ahead. You have full friendly fire damage. Enemies have more health. It's 3 times as much health as normal, which means Xenomorph runners are fucking mini bosses themselves. The grapple attacks are instantly lethal if you miss them, which I do like that challenge. I think that should have been put in extreme as well. I just want to mention that. You can only revive teammates once. You have 10 seconds to get them back up before they die. It's insane. When it specifically comes to enemies, let's talk about enemies. So, this mission introduces you to all of your main xenomorphs you're going to fight. There are literally 3 xenomorphs that are introduced outside of these 3 missions. So you have your runners, which are just standard little xenomorphs that run at you, they lunge at you, they swipe at you. That's all they do. The biggest threat from them is acid blood. I kind of like it. It makes sense. I do kind of wish that they had an alternate type of attack. Maybe if you up the difficulty, they would have another attack like a lunge attack that kind of held you in place. Then you have Prowlers, which are tankier xenomorphs that are indicated by the green. They're green text bar. You'll notice that. So, for the green enemies, they all get introduced here. You have Prowlers, drones, spitters, bursters. Am I missing one? I am not missing one. Prowlers, bursters, drones, spitters. Spitters are long-range xenomorphs with extra health. They spit acid at you, and it leaves a lingering pool on the ground. They're kind of fine. 2 changes I would make to them. 1, I would have a close-range spray. If you get up, the general tactic for beating them is you get up to them, you flank them, you get up to them, and you kill them that way. They can still spit at you, but that's the only thing they can really do. I do love how the xenomorphs use cover. Like, they use cover to their advantage. Like, spitters will literally hide behind cover. Regular xenomorphs vault over cover and use it to hide when they're not on, like, the walls or the ceilings. They use cover to hide when they're advancing to you. Good features, great AI for the enemy. Spitters, I wish, had that little close-range maneuver to keep you, like, to force you to kill them at range. I also wish there was maybe like 2 variations of them. So you had a rapid fire spitter that spit a lot more consistently, kind of like suppress the battlefield a little bit and force you maybe to use cover, but they didn't have the lingering acid effect. Or you had a heavier spitter, which is your normal one, where it fires slower, but the acid does more damage. You have drones, which are these hit and run Xenos. They run up to you, they roar, they run up to you, they pounce you, they swipe you for a good amount of damage, then they get off and they run away. And if they take enough damage, they won't even pounce you. They'll just run away. I do wish these xenomorphs had a different type of attack. Now, there is an enemy that's featured in this mission called Monica, and what she does, she's like a stronger version of a drone. I wish that they had like that type of a custom enemy for each one. Maybe not with a name, you know, not everyone has to be called Monica. There is an irradiated spitter that you'll encounter in Giants in the Earth, but for the most part, you're not really going to be paying attention to that. It's just a spitter. It just deals slightly more damage than a regular spitter does. But I wish the drones had another attack pattern again. They're very tanky, they're kind of cowardly. It's a balancing factor. I don't really have a problem with it. It's just annoying that they get it, when they're running away from you, they become damage immune. Like, you have... They'll run away to the nearest vent. There's a pathing on them where while they're looking for the vent, they can take damage. Once they figured out the vent that they're going into, they no longer take damage. Like, before they even go into the animation to get into the... just stop taking damage. That pisses me off, because you have to stop, wait for them to come back in order to kill them again. The last 2 are Bursters and Prowlers. Prowlers are annoying. They don't really do a lot of damage. They just pounce on top of you, hold you in place. You got to do button mash QTEs to get them off, or have a teammate shoot them off you. I don't really want to make changes to them. I would maybe like it if they had an invisible hit. And then you have the Burster. I have one critique of the Burster. It's a green enemy, so it has a higher health pool. I don't like that. They explode when you kill them into acid. If they're an enemy that wants to do the bulk of their damage by suicide and by blowing up in acid, their health should not be stronger than the standard runners. Their health should be weaker than the standard runners, so that they're more inclined to explode. Now, the only orange enemy, which is your boss enemy you get introduced to, besides Monica here, are warriors, which are drones that don't run away. They are much bigger. They have armor on them. Which means they take less damage from certain attacks, more damage from certain attacks till the armor goes away. Then they go back to normal. And they're tanky things. They have preset attack patterns. They like to grab you and little mouse you, and you have to dodge the little mouse when they grab you. They're beasts. They require team focus to bring down. No problem with them. In this mission right here, you are introduced to the Crusher. The Crusher is a Prowler with a much bigger head that rams into you and knocks you over. It's like a rhino. It charges in, does a lot of damage. I like Crushers. I wish Crushers were in more campaign missions than after this campaign, which I don't really play a lot of. They are a nice change of pace from the regular warrior. They have more health, they're slower, they're easier to avoid, but they take more damage and do more damage. Take more damage and do more damage. And in the last one, you get introduced to Xenomorphs, Eggs, and the Facehuggers, and the Praetorian. Which the Praetorian is basically a warrior and a Crusher combined. It is an absolute menace to take down. It's not even that dangerous, except to your AI teammates, who are terrible. It just takes a lot to put down. It literally plays like a warrior and a Crusher had a baby. It's not a hard enemy to fight if you know how to fight warriors and Crushers. It's just its health bar is so big, just on the standard difficulty, not even going up. Your AI teammates cannot handle it. The other issue I have with these campaigns as well is the Facehuggers, because Facehuggers spawn out of the eggs, and the eggs are everywhere. If you don't kill the eggs, you're going to be dealing with fucking Facehuggers every 5 minutes. I don't like that. The Facehuggers should... It's a little QTE where you take a little bit of damage, and you gotta mash it, and it throws it off your face. It doesn't kill it, either. So until you kill that Xenomorph, that fucking Facehugger, it's gonna keep coming back and doing that to you. I really wish that when if you complete the QTE to throw it off your face, it killed it. Simple as that. That would fix... I do not like playing these missions solo to grind, because I have to kill all the eggs, because those QTEs are so annoying, and you can still take damage while you're doing it. This mission introduces synthetics. Working Joes become a thing here from Seekson. They're basically just melee guys. They just rush you in melee. Although I do wish that in the earlier campaigns where you see Working Joes, I do wish that you could interact with them. Like, there's a chance that if you get too close to them, they attack you. They were kind of saving that for this campaign, I noticed. I kind of wish they'd go back and do that. Like, if you got too close to the robots, they would do that to you. They would, like, attack you. It's not until this campaign. They're pretty standard. The only difference in these guys is there are wardens, who are beefy synthetics that use guns and throw grenades. There are snipers, who are beefy that use cover and snipe and do a lot of damage. And then there are heavies, which there's flame heavies, which just come up with a flamethrower and bum rush you. You can kill them by shooting them once in the tank on their back, or you just pound tons of bullets into them. And then there's the other heavy with the minigun that doesn't do much damage, and the rockets, which does do some damage. They're worthless. The only downside is they're very bullet spongy enemies because they have armor, and so that's the only time you're going to be using snipers. Last enemy is the Pathogen, which are pretty much in this mission right here. There's 3 types of Pathogen. There's the little baby pathogens that do damage on contact. On standard difficulty, it's 100 damage on contact. That is way too high for the swarms of match you, in my opinion. It needs to be toned down just a little bit. Not a lot. I'm not saying like 50 damage on contact. 75 maybe? Seems like a decent balance. It's just, when you have a swarm of 20 of these things, and you're playing a shotgun, and like, by the time you have to reload, there's 4 left, so you lose over 1/3 of your health because of the fact that almost the entire wave was killed. Lose 1/3 of your health on contact damage? I don't like. Maybe they could fix that by having a facehugger-like QTE for them before they blow up. I don't know. Husks are just mindlessly rush you melee guys. Again, they do 100 damage a hit, but they're easier to take down, because they have headshot damage, too. So if you get lucky and just pop a headshot every now and then, you'll be fine. And then, I don't really have a problem with them doing the damage that they do, because they're like an upgraded version. And then you have the Leon, which is kind of an invisible creature. It's like a drone, invisible, it pounces on you, QTE to get it off. You know, it does some hit and run type damage. I don't have a lot to say about that. I do like that enemy. But, yeah. Enemies do need a bit of a tweak. Loadouts need a tweak. Guns need a tweak. I'm going to now stop and make a video on the guns. But as an overall review, I love the game. It's addicting to play. Particularly leveling, like the grind to level all this stuff. And particularly the difficulty spike of a lot of challenge cards and the variety that the challenge cards give you. It's a buggy game, literally, and you've got to play it with friends. Other than that,